The advice provided in this podcast is general in nature. For your specific situation, you will need to get in contact with your local OT, vehicle modifier or mobility dealer and set yourself up with an assessment or a trial. Trials really do put you in the driver's seat, so get out there and get one going. Before we get started, we just want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors who make this show possible: Mobility Engineering, Driving Well, and Williams OT. This show takes time and money to put together, and we are forever grateful for their passion for our industry. Okay, enough of the business. Let's get on to the interview with Jenny and Brad.
G'day and welcome to the Drive Able podcast. My name is Brad Williams and joining me today is Jenny Gribben. G'day Jenny, how are you?
I'm great, Brad. How are you going?
I'm good. Now you're joining me as host on this podcast for a little while Ali takes a break. For people that don't know Jenny, there's a perfect way to get to know her. She did an episode, 2 episodes, a bonus episode as well, episodes 78 and 79 on the Drive Able podcast. Please do yourself a favor and go back and listen to those episodes where we spoke about autism and driving and changes in the environment just recently. We really thank you for those episodes, Jenny. And we really thank you for coming on board for the Drive Able podcast. Are you excited?
I'm so excited, Brad. When Brad and Ali invited me to take over, fill in for Ali for the first half of the year, this year in 2024, jumped at the opportunity. So I'm a driving OT up here in Brisbane, and my business is Driving Well Occupational Therapy. I've got same qualification and similar role and as Brad down in Adelaide with Williams OT. And we've known each other for quite a few years and been a really great collaborative support to each other. And I've also known Ali for many years, working with the vehicle modification space in Queensland and across the country. So I'm really, really excited to be listening to people's different stories and how what I'm really interested in learning about is the impact that our little time that we have with the client, for example, is very, very sort of piece in time, but to hear what lasting impacts that has and that ripple effect that has. So I think what we do is pretty darn cool, and I'm really looking forward to unpacking that and hearing people's different perspectives.
We can't wait to have you and your expertise join us in this area and in this space, because you've got a wealth of knowledge as well, and we can't wait to share that with the community. For the people that are wondering what Ali's doing, don't worry. You'll hear his voice a lot. He's doing our intros and outros, so you'll hear him as part of the podcast, but just not in the interviews. However, we will be having him on in the next couple of episodes to talk about what he's doing and what exciting adventures he's going on and why he's not doing the Drive Able podcast for the time being. But let's get into today's episode. Today, we are going to talk about migrating to Australia with a disability and what impact that actually has on driving. We are going to be talking with Esther Simbi. Esther Simbi contracted polio in South Sudan, or in Sudan at that point in time. And she has an incredible journey to unpack with us about her life and where she's up to now. And of course, how driving has impact on that. She's an author, she's a social worker, she's a mediator, she's a public motivational speaker, she's a single mother of 2 daughters, refugee, polio survivor, and now a driver here in Australia. There is so much to unpack with Esther, and we can't wait to get started. Jenny, are you excited as well?
Oh, she's got an incredible story, Brad. Let's get into it.
Driving Well Occupational Therapy loves working with people of all ages and with all kinds of medical conditions to safely give them the opportunity to explore their driving goals.
Hi everybody, I am really excited to get into today's interview. Today we have Esther joining us. Esther, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Brad?
I'm awesome. Esther, what we do with every podcast interviewee that we talk to, we ask them to introduce themselves and give a little bit about their background. Can I ask you to do that for us as well?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
My name is Esther Simbi. I am originally from South Sudan. I came to Australia in July 2005 as a refugee. I'm no longer a refugee, but I identify myself as a refugee migrant. So when I was in South Sudan, it used to be Sudan then. When I was in South Sudan, I contracted polio. One morning I woke up with a paralyzed body from neck to toe. I was not able to sit, I was not able to stand. And my mom had already known what had happened to me because she had seen cases like that before. So my mom swung into action straight away, and she invented her own form of physiotherapy where she massaged my body in cold water every morning. And then she tied me in between poles and 2 poles, and she left me to stand there 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. She did that for about 3 months, and I eventually regained strength in my upper body, and I also started to learn to walk again. I was 4 years old, and so from that time on, when I was young, I could walk a little bit, like 15 to 20 minutes without getting tired. And but as I gotten older, when I came to Australia, I was 24. And when I turned 25 here in Australia, I started to feel tired, headache, and I didn't know why I was feeling the headaches and why I was being fatigued. So I went to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, and the migrant health service referred me to the Royal Adelaide Hospital. So I saw some doctors there, and that was when I was diagnosed with post-polio syndrome, which is like late effects of polio. And I was informed that the late effects of polio kicks in when you're 25. And from that time on, I started to notice that my mobility, my strength, functioning in my legs was deteriorating, and I couldn't walk for 10 minutes anymore. And I started having lots of falls. Even in the house, I tried to walk unaided in the house, but I was still having falls. And so when I came to Australia, 2 years after I arrived in Australia, I learned to drive. My left leg is completely weak, but my right leg has a little bit of strength in it. And I learned how to drive. With the confidence in me, it didn't take me long to get my piece, and I started to drive myself. And I was so excited. I had a sedan, a small car, and then in 2010, I had my first child, and at the Women's and Children's Hospital. When I was having the child, I had cesarean, and I had epidural injection in my back. And that epidural injection went straight into my left leg, the leg that is already weak. And the pain, I felt the pain going through there. And from that time on, I was no longer the same. And I became pregnant with my second child in 2015, but unfortunately, I lost that pregnancy. The baby was born still. And yeah, and then in 2015, October, I found out I was pregnant with my now 7-year-old. And I also had cesarean with, they had the doctors at the Women's and Children's Hospital worked out that I was not able to have a natural birth because of the scoliosis in my back, and that my birth canal was kind of twisted. That's why I had to have a cesarean, and they said it was all because of the polio. That's why I was like that. And so I had another cesarean, and again, the epidural went straight into my left leg. And a few days after I had my now 7-year-old child, I started feeling severe back pain. And it became hard for me to get in and out of the car, driving my children to school. During that time, before my now 7-year-old was born, I was in a relationship. But 2 weeks after she was born, he woke up one morning and to go to work. And he left to work. We didn't have any quarrel. We didn't have any problem. He gave me a kiss. He gave the kids a kiss, and then he went. He left early that day. He said he was going to pay our bills. Back then, we paid the bills at the post office, not online. And he said he was going to pay our bills at the post office, and then he would proceed to work from there. That evening, around 6 p.m. in the evening, usually he would call at 6 p.m. to wish our old daughter good night, because that was the time she goes to bed, around 6:30. But he didn't call, and then we waited. He didn't call. My daughter wanted to go to bed. She wanted to speak with him before she goes to bed. He didn't call, so we tried calling him many times. He did not answer, which was unusual. He would usually answer, or he would call back straight away. And so I told my daughter to go to bed, that probably he is busy and that she will see him either in the night or in the morning. And because when I was heavily pregnant, I couldn't drive. And after I had my now 7-year-old, I still couldn't drive. It was still, the wound was still raw. I couldn't drive, and I wasn't going to church. So my older daughter and my ex-husband went to church together for the whole of that time. Every Sunday they go to church together. It was a Saturday, that day when he went to work, and I told my daughter, go to bed, you see your dad in the morning, and you go to church with him like you have always done. So I went to bed at 7. After putting my baby to bed, I went to bed, and I woke up at 11 p.m. with the sound of my baby crying. So when I woke up, I saw my phone was flashing, and I went to check. It was a message from him, and he broke up with me over a text. He said he wasn't coming back home. And so I breastfed the baby, changed her nappies, put her back to bed. And then I called him, and he answered, and he was so happy, like laughing. It didn't really make any sense. And so that was it, really. That was the end of my relationship with him. And from that time on, the pain in my back continued. It became severe. Driving was a big problem. And also the late effects of polio added on to that. That's why I was having difficulties getting in and out of the sedan. I went for x-rays so many times, scans in my back and all of that. They didn't find anything. And so I continued. We moved houses so many times during that period. And then we moved to Calamity, where we are living at the moment. And but my daughter was going to school in South Plimpton. We were living in Black Forest before we moved to Calamity. And so I have to drive from Calamity, from the northeast of Adelaide to the south of Adelaide to school. I did that for 1.5 terms while we wait for a vacancy to become available in this area. And so in term 3, that was when we were able to secure a vacancy for my daughter, and she joined a school here. During that time, it was so hard. It was already hard. And as soon as it was in 2018 when we moved here, and she joined the school here in 3rd term. And I went back one morning after I dropped them to school. I dropped the little one to childcare closer to home here. I went back to that school, returning the uniforms, and back to the second-hand uniform shop. And I had already made arrangement with the school. They were going to give me money back. So as I was going to the school, at an intersection, I was waiting to turn right. And so there was this interstate driver from Victoria who was driving over 60 kilometers. And he ran a red light. I had just started to turn right. He ran a red light. He hit me head on. His car, half of his car went in. It was the grace of God that somebody came alive from that car, smoke everything. My car, only the left side was scratched and the pipe was exposed. And because I was on brake, and then when the car was hit, so I panicked, I let go of the car, and the car spinned and turned back to where I was coming from. But the car didn't flip, thank God. And so I think everything happened for a reason. And the insurance was able to pay me money to buy another car. I had to go to the hospital to get my neck checked, MRI and all of that. And so I had the money, and I had to add in some money to be able to pay deposit. And this time I got a car on finance, a RAV4, Toyota RAV4 2018, brand new in 2018. I got that car. I was the first one to drive it. And when I got that car, I realized it was really good that now I don't have issues getting in and out, because it's a small SUV. The small one, I was able to get in, I was able to get out. I have difficulties getting in and out of the bigger cars and the small cars, but that was right size. So when I started driving in that car, I realized that because it was a big car, my foot was kind of hanging in the air. And so that was when I came to know Brad. I can't remember how the referral was made, who made the referral, but all I remembered was that I received a call from Brad's office, and I went to meet with him for some car modifications to be done. And so my car was modified, a lifter was put in the boot, and there was a box put on the driver's side, so that my leg is not hanging in the air. When I'm driving, at least I can rest my leg. And so that was good. And
so Esther, was that the main difficulty for you, now that you had the SUV, which was a much better height for you to be able to get in and out, that solved that problem?
Yeah.
But then you, with the change in size of the pedals and the seat position and things, you were finding that your right leg was it like just up in the air, was it? And you didn't have enough support underneath your
my leg was up in the air. There was no support. My leg could not reach. My leg could not reach at the floor of the car.
How did that affect your driving?
I think it was still putting pressure on my back, because I continued having that pain. I wasn't actually sure whether the driving was the one that was causing my back pain, but after the car modification, the pain disappeared. I keep thinking that maybe that pain disappeared because at that time I started feeling knee pain. And when I started feeling the knee pain in 2019, that was when I started feeling the knee pain. When I started feeling that knee pain, I went to the doctor at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and the doctor prescribed for me meloxicam medication for the knee pain. When I started taking that medication, it kind of fixed the back pain, but it did not fix the knee pain. And I've been carrying that knee pain since 2019. At some stage, it was very severe. And now I used to, like I said earlier, walk in the house unaided. Now I am not able to walk in the house unaided anymore. I use the wheelchair full time in the house and outside of the community. So the lifter was put in the boot of the car, and Williams OT made an assessment, completed an assessment for me to get a new scooter, a scooter that is small, that can fit in the boot of the car, so that if I'm to go to the hospital, because I think I might have explained to Williams OT that I was having difficulties getting to the hospital and back in an access cab, because I had so many medical appointments between 2018 and to current, to now. The appointments are still going, and every time I go to the hospital and come back, sometimes like in a fortnight, I go to the hospital 3 times because of the elbow pain from the falls I had, and from the way I used to walk. When I was walking, I push my knee back with my left arm. I use my left arm to support my knee, and that was how I walk. If I don't push my knee back, I will fall. And from doing that, the doctors explained to me that my elbow, my left elbow, kind of figured out that I needed more strength there, and so the elbow started to grow extra bones naturally to give me that extra support. And when the extra bones were growing, they pushed out then the original bones, and the nerve, the big nerve, was caught in between the bones, and that caused a lot of pain. So it was not only the knee pain that I was going to the hospital for, but also the elbow pain. The back pain was still a little bit, and also some nose problem. And it was expensive for me. So when I spoke with Williams OT, they suggested purchasing a scooter, a small scooter that can fit in the boot. And so that's what happened. Because I have this car now, the boot is big, the boot can fit the scooter in. And so the assessment was completed, and the NDIS was able to pay for that scooter. And now I have scooter in the car. I only bring it in when the battery is going flat to charge, and then return it to the car. And I can use the lifter to lift the scooter in and out of the car. And that was my driving journey, with a lot of difficulties. But now the back pain is completely gone. The knee pain is severe. The reason why I'm now using the wheelchair is because I had a fall in December 2022, and I had another fall in January last year. And I fractured my kneecap 4 times in 2 places. And I was in a lot of pain. I wasn't driving for a few months. And but now the pain is a little bit better. And I don't want to walk unaided in the house, because since then I have had 3 surgeries in my left arm, carpal tunnel, one at the back of the elbow to remove the extra bones, and the major one here to fix the nerve that was caught in between the bones. The nerve was causing numbness in my hand and fingers. And so I don't want to walk like how I used to walk before. I use sticks, sometimes the crutches in the house, but I feel more comfortable using the wheelchair, because I have fallen a few times when I was using the crutches. and I don't want to fall again. I don't want to hurt myself. And so I found what works for me, which is probably not ideal to some people. Other people are telling me to keep walking, and because if I don't walk, my muscles will lose its functioning. But it's risky, yeah.
Esther, there's so much to unpack here, and I'm just wary of time. There's a couple of things that I want to ask you to start off with.
Yeah.
With the RAV4
Mm-hmm.
and the driving, you mentioned that your foot was in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Has the polio impacted the shape and size of your right leg and foot at all?
Yes. Yes. So my right foot is deformed, and it's kind of like small, and my legs too are small. That was one reason why the doctors couldn't go ahead with knee surgery. I was booked in for knee surgery, but they didn't proceed with it. After medical examination, they discovered that my knees are slightly small. They're like kids' knees, and so that's what happened. The polio made my legs small, made my feet small, and my right foot is deformed.
So
But
if people are listening to this and they're wondering about, well, how does that impact on back pain? While you're listening to this, if you hold your right arm up, this is for all the listeners to do. If you hold your right arm up in the air and make a fist and cock your wrist type of thing, that's how Esther's leg kind of is. So make a fist and a straight arm, and that's how Esther was driving. Now, the longer you hold that arm, it's not your arm that goes into pain. It's actually your shoulder, the back of your shoulder, in behind your shoulder blade that goes into pain. They have at the Oktoberfest, they have a beer drinking competition where they have to hold the stein out with an outstretched arm to see how much strength that actually takes to do. And it's excruciating. Most people can't hold their arm up for much longer than a minute. And even now, while I'm talking to you, I'm getting a sore shoulder. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I've got my arm out in the air, but if you're listening to this, you can't see a thing. So I'm explaining it to you, but my shoulder is starting to ache. And what's happening is with the leg is that your back muscles are taking in all of the extra weight of your leg if it's up in the air. So if you're listening to this and maybe you're a long distance driver, we can tend to see a lot of people with back issues when they drive long distances because their leg and heel is not well supported. And that's basically what was happening to Esther. So Esther, you explained that a box was put in underneath the pedals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that a permanent fixture, or is that something that goes in and out if someone else was to drive? How does that actually operate?
It goes in and out. There is a key, like, is it called Allen key, if you like, so that you can use to unscrew and screw it back. So there was a time we went to Murray Bridge and somebody was driving my car, so we removed the box using that key, and we put the key back in the box in the car. And then when we came back from Murray Bridge, we put the box back.
So that allows you to rest your heel like other people with a full size foot are able to do. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference to the pain in your knee and your back, and I guess it increases your ability to drive further. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what has that allowed you to do? How has that changed your life? You've got a fascinating backstory, and there's so much to unpack there, but I'm not sure we'll get into that too much more in this podcast today. But what has the modification of that box underneath the pedals made to your life?
And the lifter for the scooter.
Yeah, the lifter for the scooter as well.
Yeah, so it has made so much difference in my life. I can now drive my kids to school, pick them up. I can go for long drives. I have gone to Victor Harbor a few times driving. in the car. And I enjoy driving. I enjoy long drives. And like I said, I don't know what it is about Murray Bridge. I like to go to Murray Bridge at least once a year. And it's really given me a new lease for life. And going to the hospital, when I go to the hospital, I can use my crutches to go to the back of the car and use the lifter to get the scooter out. And then there I go to the appointment. I can now park far, and if there is no closer parking, it used to be really hard parking at the hospital, and the only way is for me to use access cab to get to the hospital. But now I can use my car and reduce the cost of transport in that way.
I think it's a really important consideration, Esther, because I work with a lot of different clients that might have possibly not the same disability that you have, but a similar kind of problem with their driving, and they really focused on thinking about, I need modifications to drive the car. But driving's not just about driving the car, it's that whole getting in and out of the car, which you solved yourself with that kind of car, but also it's that community access. So think about where what the challenges are with driving before modifications, and what all of the goals are. Well, I want to make it easier to get to school and get to the hospital for my appointments and get out and about and do some really fun things with my family.
Yeah, and I can now go to for my speaking events. I get invited to speak at events. I'm a motivational speaker, and I go to some of the events without a support worker. Most of the events I go with a support worker, but sometimes I just want time to myself, and I'll just get myself into the car and go to the event and get myself out of the the car, and then and come back.
Yeah.
Esther, I'm going to take you back just slightly. I remember something else about your assessment. You've got a power wheelchair, and we're trying to discover if we could get the power wheelchair into your car, and it just wasn't going to fit. But if I remember correctly, you were driving your car and never getting out of your car. You would drive your daughters, and they would have to do all the errands for you. And get in and out of the car, including shopping and all kinds of stuff. And we're talking years ago when they were tiny. And your eldest daughter took on a lot of responsibilities. The power wheelchair you use from memory to go around your local neighborhood. But outside of the range of your power wheelchair, it was in the car and getting your young, at that time, very young daughters to do everything for you. I'm assuming this has made a big difference to their life as well.
Yeah, it's made a big difference to their life. And my older one is 13. She's a teenager. She's now focusing on doing teenage stuff. And and my little one too is doing her own things. And it has made a really big difference. And also the other thing is that I now have roller door, automatic roller door that I use remote. When we had the assessment, we didn't have the automatic roller door. And now, because my older daughter used to do that, when I'm dropping them to school, she'll come out of the car in the rain to close the roller door or to open the roller door so I can put the car in. But now I use the remote, and it gives them time also to focus on kids' stuff.
Such a simple solution makes such a big difference.
Yeah. Hey, Esther, we want to give you a final little shout out to talk about yourself now and what you do in life, because not only has driving given you a bit of freedom to do bits and pieces, but it's also, from my understanding, had a ripple effect on how much you're able to do. I wanted to also get you onto this podcast to let everybody know what you do now when you're not looking after your children. and it's a lot. So what do you get up to?
Sure, thank you, Brad. So I am somebody who believes that disability is not inability, and I've seen that with me firsthand. I refuse to let disability put me down. I'm always doing stuff. When I came to Australia, I came with a diploma in social work, and I enrolled to Estha, University of South Australia, completed my social work degree, went back to the University of South Australia, completed a master's degree in mediation and conflict resolution. And I worked with the government for 7 years, and then I ventured into charity work. So I, as part of my social work degree, I wrote a project about working with African women with a disability. And so I was fortunate to link with the Young Women's Christian Association in Adelaide, and we applied for government grant. We got the grant, and I was working there as a project coordinator and also managing that project. So that was in 2015. And then when I became pregnant with my now 7 years old, after I lost the middle child, I decided to take time off work. And earlier in the pregnancy, I took time off work, and until 2016 when she was born. And then of course, I became a single mom, and it was hard for me to go back to work straight away. She was also born with a congenital lung disease, and I wasn't sure if I took her to childcare, she was going to be okay. So I wanted to get clear from the doctors before I can take her to the childcare. But now she's okay. She didn't need to have any surgery. And so I wasn't able to return to work to continue with that project, because while I was at home until 2017, 2018, the Young Women's Christian Association decided to change the focus and the name of the project. And so I became unemployed after my long maternity leave. I became unemployed until 2021, when the Julia Farr Association, Purple Orange, was looking for staff from culturally and linguistically diverse background to help them connect their organization with cold communities in South Australia. And I happened to be the person. So it was like an expert they were looking for. So I happened to be the expert. And so they employed me, and that project with Purple Orange was a huge success. I was able to connect them with the cold communities, and I delivered workshops on disability, types of disability, and the NDIS and all of that. And so during that time when I was unemployed, I published my first book, Beyond the Calamity. It talks about my life journey, contracting polio, surviving that, growing up in refugee camps. Before I came to Australia, I was in Uganda refugee camps, 3 refugee camps. I was there for 19 years before I came to Australia. And so my book talks about the war in Sudan, how we escaped that war and all of that. And then in 2020, I also published my second book, Blessed, talks about parenting with a disability. And I now realize the feedback and the testimonials I got from people who have already read my books. I now realize that my books have actually become somebody's life manual, like instructing them on what to do with their life if they experience difficulties and all of that. Really good feedback I received from both books. And a local mayor told me after he read my second book, he said, Esther, if I had read your book 26 years ago, that was in 2021, he said, 26 years ago, I would have been able to save my marriage. I would have been able to identify those issues, especially financial issues in the family that always lead to relationship breakdown and all of that. And that was great. So I decided that I was going to reinvent that project with the Young Women's Christian Association. It was called Crossing the Bridge, because they had changed the focus, they had changed the name. So I needed to reinvent. And so with the NDIS now fully on the way, I decided to rewrite the project into an organization, not just a project, one project, but into an organization to align with the NDIS service delivery model. And I applied to register the organization, and we got the organization registered. It's called Zion Disability Services. And then in May last year, the organization was registered as a charity organization. And I have been doing that, bringing that organization from the ground up and running. And we are now at the stage where we are applying for government grant. We needed to be 1 year old before we can start applying for government grants. And we turned 1 year old in August last year. And yeah, so we've put in grant applications. And also, while we are waiting for the government grants, we are not sure whether we'll get any grants soon or not. So what I have decided to do is to expand my writing business into like a sole trader business. And what that means is that I have included in telling disability stories into that writing. That would either be in writing or sharing story face to face. And also I've included in support worker training into that writing project, that writing business. And I was lucky enough to find an NDIS provider that gave us contract for 11 support worker workshops that I'm delivering to train their support workers. We are not providing qualifications at the moment, but it's just the extra knowledge for the support workers to do something that is probably missed in the classroom when they are completing their certificate 3 in disability or something like that. And speaking from my own experience, I'm running those training sessions and they are loving it so far, and which is good. And then apart from that, there is the public speaking, motivational speaking, part of the thing that I do. For a long time, I have been doing those public speaking events for free. And I just only recently, last year in November last year, got my first pay from the community speaking events. And small money, but that was really good. That was the first one. Apart from that, I was also invited to participate in the Disability Royal Commission public hearing, 17 in Hobart in 2022, and public hearing 29 in Melbourne in 2022. And I also had that opportunity to do a submission to the Disability Royal Commission, talking all about abuse experienced by people living with a disability from CALD backgrounds. And that submission is on the DRC website for the public to view. And so, yeah, I think there's a third book on the way. At the moment, I'm organizing International Women's Day fundraising dinner to celebrate women with disability and to also support women with disability.
I'm very glad you mentioned that, Esther,
Mm-hmm.
because I think Brad's got some very exciting news for you. Okay.
Esther, I can't believe how you find any time to sleep at night. You're amazing at how much you actually do. I'm hoping that might have a little bit to do with being able to drive a bit more freely and get yourself to all these events. But what I want to give you the opportunity to share where maybe somebody might be able to get in contact with you. But you did mention the International Women's Day fundraising dinner. Now, unfortunately, I can't go to that here in Adelaide. I'm actually going to be away, but we would like to sponsor somebody to go to that dinner from the Drive Able podcast, so they can actually get to go and join in the festivities. So we will sponsor somebody to be able to get to that. Maybe they've got a disability, or maybe they're from overseas as a refugee, would like to help out from that point of view, because you do amazing things for the community. It's the least we can do to give back to your community.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you very much. Thank you. There's a lady who lives with disability. I sent her the flyer and she said, Esther would love to come, but I can't afford the ticket. And there are a few more that said they would love to come. They cannot afford the ticket. That would really go a long way. If you don't have anyone in mind already, I have people that can,
We'll do that. I'll get back in contact with you. We will transfer the money so somebody can go along. Maybe it's the lady that you're talking about, and maybe buy a raffle ticket or two as well. We will put some links up to some of these events and charities and organizations that you're involved in. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds really great. Thank you very much.
We'll put it in the show notes so that people can maybe get in contact. Hey, and as somebody who's read Beyond Calamity, Esther's a great author too. So make sure that you go and check her books out. Hey, before we wind up, we just need to hear from our sponsors. So we're just going to take a short break and be back in a second.
Mobility Engineering is Australia's leading automotive product supplier for disability customers. We have installers all across the country, over 100 of them, and we have the largest range of mobility products for vehicles in the country. Get in touch with Mobility Engineering for any of your driving solutions.
Yeah, thank you very much to our sponsors that make this show possible, and on this occasion, helping out Esther and the International Women's Day fundraising dinner. Hey, Esther, we've learned so much over the journey of this podcast that cars are just more than getting from A to B. They really do give independence and freedom. Have you got a specific memory that you can share with us that means something to you? A journey, a special trip, something you've used your car for? What's one memory that sticks out to you using your car?
Going to Murray Bridge.
Is it going to see that bunyip up at Murray Bridge?
Yes. I don't know what it is with me and Murray Bridge. But
come down, check out this
Jenny's looking at us. She doesn't know anything about Murray Bridge. Murray Bridge is about an hour out of Adelaide. So is Victor Harbour. So we're talking, there's a couple of places about an hour around Adelaide that Esther's talking about. I'm not sure what it is about Murray Bridge either, Esther. I'm not sure that would be in my favourite destination places. But there's something about it for you?
Yeah, there's something about it for me. There was a period of time when I had that pain. I couldn't drive for long distances. I stayed at home. I think it was 2 years, and my kids were like, Mom, why are we not going back to Murray Bridge? They were now also like going to Murray Bridge. For my little one, to her, going to Murray Bridge means having strawberry milkshake and having lunch there. And so, so we last year we drove to Murray Bridge, and this time we decided, how about we stay there and not come back for 2 nights? So we stayed 2 nights in Murray Bridge, and the driving was of course good, and the back pain is no longer there. The knee injury I had, the pain had settled, so we drove to Murray Bridge, and yeah, it's really good going to the park with the kids and all of that, and watching the train.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, watching the train from the river and that kind of thing. It's really good. It has good feeling to it. And also, like I said, driving to Victor Harbour, and we also went to Port Augusta for the first time.
Right, righto. Yeah, so look, Jenny, do yourself a favor, look up Murray Bridge Bunyip. And it's been there for years and years and years. You put in a gold coin and this bunyip comes out of the water next to the Murray River. It's a treat, but I agree with you, Esther. Maybe the milkshakes are better than the bunyip. And watching the trains head off to Melbourne and Sydney across the Murray River there, it's quite a lovely spot there. Esther, thank you so much. What's one place that they could get in contact with you if they want to get you as a motivational speaker, if they want to talk to you about Zion, if they want to talk to you about your books, if they want to talk to you about support working, training, or being a motivational speaker? Is there a spot where they're best to get in contact with you?
Yes. So at the minute, I'm using admin@ziondisabilityservices.org.au.
Yep. We will put that down in the show notes as well for anybody that wants to get in contact with you. And we'll put some links onto some of the other places as well, because Esther, we're meant to talk to people for about 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure we're up to an hour now. It's a pleasure as always to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming on to the podcast. And yeah, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and for sponsoring someone to attend our International Women's Day dinner.
It's our absolute pleasure. And that's it, everybody. We will see you in the next episode with Jenny again joining us. Jenny, thanks very much for joining us on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you along as well. You've done great as your first host, and I can't wait for the next episode.
Great. Thanks so much.
As we wind up this episode, please remember that the advice provided in this podcast is general in nature. For your specific situation, you will need to get in contact with your local OT, vehicle modifier, or mobility dealer and set yourself up with an assessment or trial. Trials really do put you in that driver's seat.
If you like what you've heard, make sure you like, rate, and subscribe. It really does make a massive difference. If you or anyone you know would like to share a story about driving with a disability, or you would like to get in contact, find the show notes, or find the resources mentioned in this episode, you can find us on Facebook. Just search @DriveAblePodcast for more information.